Huawei is very dangerous.
Rarely does a country go to war with a private company.
We have met the enemy, and it is Huawei.
We're not going to do business with Huawei.
Huawei represents a national security risk.
But is this really about Huawei? Or is it something bigger than that?
The United States government believed they had delivered a knockout blow. Since 2019, a comprehensive web of export restrictions had been designed with one singular purpose: to cripple China's semiconductor industry and prevent Huawei technologies from accessing advanced chip manufacturing technology. The restrictions targeted cutting-edge equipment, blocked access to sophisticated lithography machines, and aimed to freeze China's technological progress at a specific point in time. American policymakers calculated that without access to Western technology, China's chip ambitions would simply wither away. They were wrong. December 2025 brought news that sent shockwaves through the global semiconductor industry. Huawei's latest Mate 80 series smartphones had arrived on the market, and inside these devices beat a processor that shouldn't exist according to Washington's strategic calculations. The Kirin 9030 processor was powering Huawei's Mate 80 Pro Max, and it represented something far more significant than just another smartphone chip. This was tangible evidence that China's semiconductor industry had found a way forward, despite facing the most comprehensive technology embargo in modern history. TechInsights, a Canadian semiconductor research firm with a reputation for meticulous analysis, tore down the new Huawei device and examined the silicon heart inside. What they discovered challenged the prevailing narrative about China's technological capabilities. The Kirin 9030 had been manufactured by Semiconductor Manufacturing International Corp, known as SMIC, China's top foundry and national champion in the semiconductor race. But the manufacturing process itself revealed the most intriguing detail. SMIC had used what they called the N+3 process, described in the TechInsights report as a scaled evolution of the chipmaker's previous 7-nanometer node technology. The technical achievement here requires understanding what scaled evolution actually means in semiconductor manufacturing. This wasn't a completely revolutionary new process that leapfrogged Western technology. Instead, Chinese engineers had taken existing 7-nanometer capabilities and systematically optimized, refined, and improved them to extract maximum performance from technology that Western sanctions hadn't completely blocked. The TechInsights report noted meaningful density improvements in SMIC's N+3 process, which translates to more transistors packed into the same space, better power efficiency, and enhanced performance compared to previous generation chips. However, the report also delivered a sobering reality check. Despite these improvements, SMIC's capabilities were still behind leading chipmakers, Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Co. and Samsung Electronics. The global leaders had already moved to 3-nanometer production and below, representing technology that remains several generations ahead of what Chinese foundries can currently achieve. TSMC and Samsung weren't standing still. They were racing toward 2-nanometer processes and beyond, utilizing extreme ultraviolet lithography machines that remain completely off-limits to Chinese manufacturers due to export restrictions. Yet focusing solely on this technological gap misses the broader strategic picture unfolding across China's technology sector. The question isn't whether Chinese chips match the absolute cutting edge of what TSMC produces in Taiwan. The question is whether they're good enough to power smartphones, AI applications, telecommunications equipment, and the digital infrastructure that China needs to function independently of Western supply chains. The Kirin 9030 suggests the answer is increasingly yes. China's approach to overcoming these restrictions reveals a sophisticated multi-layered strategy. The existing equipment that Chinese foundries possessed before the most severe restrictions took effect became the foundation. Engineers focused on squeezing every possible advancement from this equipment through process optimization, innovative manufacturing techniques, and incremental improvements that compound over time. The Chinese government poured massive investments into domestic semiconductor development, treating chip independence as a matter of national security equivalent to food or energy security. The self-reliance doctrine, expressed in Chinese as Ziligensheng, became more than a slogan. It transformed into a comprehensive industrial policy. SMIC's role evolved from being just another contract manufacturer into serving as a national champion tasked with breaking China's dependency on foreign semiconductor technology. The company received government support, access to top engineering talent, and the implicit understanding that profitability mattered less than technological progress. This created an entirely different competitive dynamic than the purely market-driven semiconductor industry in other regions. The semiconductor story represents just one front in China's broader technology independence campaign. Chinese artificial intelligence development has produced results that surprised Western observers who assumed that restricted access to cutting-edge chips would cripple AI progress. DeepSeek, a Chinese AI research organization, recently unveiled Math V2, described as the first open-source AI model to achieve gold medal-level performance at the International Mathematical Olympiad. This achievement demonstrated that software innovation could partially compensate for hardware limitations, and that throwing the most advanced chips at problems isn't always the only path to breakthrough results. The philosophy behind Chinese tech development increasingly diverges from Western approaches. While Silicon Valley obsesses over benchmark scores and absolute performance metrics, Chinese developers focus on practical applications that solve real-world problems. For nations across Africa, Southeast Asia, and Latin America, the critical question about AI isn't whether it achieves the highest score on standardized tests. The question is whether that AI can optimize fertilizer distribution during a drought, balance fragile power grids, or improve agricultural yields with limited resources. Chinese technology, developed under resource constraints and focused on efficiency, often aligns better with these practical needs than cutting-edge Western alternatives. Zhou Qi, managing partner of GSR United Capital, a venture capital firm managing over 10 billion yuan, approximately $1.4 billion in assets, provided a candid assessment of where China's AI sector still needs improvement. He identified 6 critical areas: ecosystem development, standardization, funding mechanisms, talent acquisition and retention, branding and international perception, and AI ethics frameworks. Zhou acknowledged that China and the US were the 2 top players in global AI development, with the former leading in humanoid robotics and open-source large language models. However, he noted that we are still behind some advanced economies like the US in terms of soft power. This assessment reveals sophisticated self-awareness within China's technology community. The hardware and software capabilities are advancing, but building the complete ecosystem that surrounds successful technology platforms requires more than just technical excellence. It requires international trust, standardized protocols that others adopt, compelling branding that resonates globally, and ethical frameworks that address legitimate concerns about AI deployment. The geopolitical implications of China's chip progress extend far beyond smartphones and semiconductors. American export restrictions were designed as a strategic tool to maintain technological dominance and limit China's capabilities in areas considered critical to national security. The emergence of chips like the Kirin 9030 suggests these restrictions have created unintended consequences. Rather than simply halting Chinese progress, the sanctions accelerated China's determination to achieve complete technological independence. Every restriction becomes another motivation to develop domestic alternatives, and every sanction feeds the narrative within China that self-reliance isn't optional, it's essential. Historical parallels exist with other industries that faced similar restrictions. When the Soviet Union was cut off from Western technology during the Cold War, it developed parallel technological paths that sometimes achieved surprising results through entirely different approaches. When Japan faced semiconductor restrictions in the 1980s, it responded by building one of the world's most sophisticated chip industries. Sanctions can slow progress, but they rarely stop determined nations with sufficient resources and talent from finding alternative paths forward. The global technology industry is witnessing a bifurcation into separate ecosystems, one centered around American technology, Western standards, and companies like TSMC, Samsung, Intel, and NVIDIA. Another forming around Chinese technology, domestic standards, and companies like SMIC, Huawei, and Bitmain. This division extends beyond chips to encompass telecommunications networks, AI platforms, operating systems, and digital infrastructure. Countries worldwide face increasing pressure to choose which ecosystem to align with, knowing that these choices carry both technological and geopolitical implications. For the Global South, this bifurcation offers something that didn't exist during previous technological eras: choice. Nations in Africa, Southeast Asia, and Latin America no longer face a binary decision between adopting Western technology or having no advanced technology at all. Chinese alternatives provide options that sometimes better match their budgets, infrastructure limitations, and practical needs. The integration of Chinese AI into various developing nations reflects this dynamic, driven not simply by lower costs, but by alignment with different development priorities. The Kirin 9030 processor represents more than the sum of its transistors and manufacturing process. It symbolizes China's refusal to accept technological subordination and demonstrates tangible progress towards semiconductor independence. The chip proves that SMIC can manufacture processors capable of powering flagship smartphones despite operating with technology generations behind the absolute cutting edge. It validates China's incremental improvement strategy and suggests that the gap with leading foundries, while still substantial, may not be insurmountable. Looking toward the future raises critical questions that remain unanswered. Can China eventually close the gap with TSMC and Samsung in advanced node manufacturing? The 5 to 10-year horizon presents the possibility, but achieving it requires breakthroughs in areas like extreme ultraviolet lithography, where Chinese companies currently have no viable alternatives. Will Chinese foundries find ways to leapfrog certain technologies entirely, perhaps through novel approaches to chip architecture or manufacturing techniques that don't require the most advanced equipment? History shows that technological progress rarely follows perfectly linear paths. The sustainability of China's current approach faces scrutiny. Massive government subsidies can accelerate progress, but also create inefficiencies and companies dependent on continuing support rather than market competitiveness. Talent retention remains challenging when top semiconductor engineers can earn substantially more working for TSMC in Taiwan or American companies. International perception and branding matter in technology. The greatest chip in the world achieves limited impact if customers don't trust it or prefer alternatives. American export control policy also faces an uncertain future. Will restrictions tighten further, potentially accelerating China's push for complete independence? Will they loosen as economic and diplomatic pressures mount? Will third countries continue cooperating with American restrictions? Or will they increasingly pursue their own interests? Each policy choice creates ripples across global technology supply chains and influences the trajectory of semiconductor development worldwide. The emergence of the Kirin 9030 processor, powered by SMIC's N+3 process, marks a milestone in China's semiconductor journey, but it's far from the final chapter. The chip demonstrates meaningful progress despite comprehensive export restrictions, validates China's strategy of incremental improvement and optimization, and signals that American sanctions haven't achieved their goal of freezing Chinese capabilities at a fixed point. Whether this progress continues, accelerates, or eventually plateaus depends on technological breakthroughs, policy decisions, and market forces that remain fluid. What's your take on this technological race? Will China eventually catch up to TSMC and Samsung in chip manufacturing, or will the gap prove impossible to close without access to the most advanced equipment? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more analysis of the geopolitical forces reshaping our technological future.